Yeah, boy. Bring in with a little Whiskey Myers on a Sunday night. Hey, it's the Fish Life Podcast. Tonight we're going to talk Lake Fork Bass Fishing Tournament Edition. And we're actually going to discuss the biggest losing bag of all time. I mean, this guy, he caught 34 pounds a day, went over 100 pounds, and still didn't win the tournament. None other than Stetson Blaylock from one of the all-time, maybe the most all-time legendary big bass fishing tournaments that's ever happened, the 2014 Toyota Texas Bass Classic. This man finished second place. He was right there in the mix with the best in the world, fishing on the lake, the best fishing that level had ever experienced. We're going to get to talk to Stetson Blaylock about that and so much more tonight. Hey, we're going to talk about next year's Elite Series schedule. We're going to talk about fall bass fishing in general. We're just going to get after it, have an open dialogue with Stetson, and talk about everything. Lake Fork bass fishing, Elite Series, fall bass fishing. It's going to be a fun one tonight. It's always great when you get one of the best in the world to get on here and give you their take on this crazy sport that we all love so much. So, hey, get that brown in your cup. Hold it up, drink it down. This is the Fish Life Podcast. Welcome back, y'all. Thanks for joining us. Let's get it. Yeah, they may not understand it, but that's all right. Let's go, Brandon. And with that being said, we'll say some hellos and how you doing. Get it going right. Hey, guys, as y'all come in here tonight, do me a favor. Hit the thumbs up. Hit the thumbs down. Hit something. Just interact with the post. Drop us a comment so we know who we're talking to tonight. And also, if you don't mind, please share this. It always helps us when you share it. That's the number one way that you can help us get this thing out there to more people. And we sure do appreciate it. Chris is not going to be here tonight. It's just going to be me. But, hey, like I said, we're going to have Stetson Blaylock. I'm sure he can fill in for an idiot like Chris because it ain't very big shoes to fill. Now, let's say some hellos and how you doing to the early risers in here tonight. We got Big John, Tyler Lubbenhosen, Hawkeye 89, Big L, John Sherrod, Michael Bray, Cody Mays. There we go. That's the early risers so far. There'll be more of y'all joining us as we go. But, man, hey, fall's here. I saw somebody comment, fall is here. Fall is officially here. We've had some cooler mornings. Turnovers behind us now. Man, Berkeley went well. The Berkeley tournament went really well at Lake Fork this weekend. We had a 10-pounder come in, a 1080 something, which I believe we guessed it would be 10 something. I guess 10-3 something or whatever. It was 1080 something, so we're half pound off on that. Now, the under blew my mind. The under was 3.16 or something like that. Or 3.6, 3.16 maybe. I don't know. We had over a 3-pound under get weighed in for the biggest under the slot fish of the tournament. That's real rare, guys. I can count on one hand how many times I've seen a 3-pound under. That speaks volumes about the shape that the fish are in Lake Fork. To be this fat this early in the fall, to weigh 3 pounds at 16 inches, god dang, that's a fat fish, right? And really, it speaks to the fact that we didn't really have a hard summer. Water temps never really got that high. These fish didn't struggle. We didn't have the thermocline, the lack of oxygen, the harsh turnover. We had a lighter turnover, like all these things that make it tough on fish to get through the summer and in the fall that makes them weigh less. We didn't have as much of that this year, and I think that shows when you got unders that are that heavy, over 3 pounds. We had a 280 or 290 something weighed in as well. I mean, those are really fat, healthy, young fish coming in at 16 inches at that weight. So Lake Fork fish, as always, seems like are in phenomenal shape. Every time you have an hourly tournament, it's very rare that it doesn't take a double-digit fish to win. There's no other lake on earth that you can say that about. There's no other place they go to that has hourly big bass tournaments for amateurs, and it takes a 10-pounder every single time. No matter, I mean, there's been a couple exceptions, but no matter what time of year it is, what the fishing conditions are, what the weather does, it doesn't matter. It's always a 10-pounder at Lake Fork in these hourly big bass events. So just a phenomenal fishery. We're going to get a guy on the phone that knows a whole lot about it. We're going to go ahead and transition, talk to Stetson. I think the fishing is going to continue to be good. We're going to ask Stetson about that. But Stetson has done some guiding on Lake Fork. He's from Arkansas. He spent a ton of time. This guy's just spent a ridiculous amount of time on Lake Fork. So he knows the lake very, very well. So we'll talk to him about that, about Elite Series, and so much more. And if you guys have some questions while somebody said you got some junk going back, what y'all think about the mullet? Huh? It's starting to get there, boys. It's starting to get there. It's almost. It pretty much looks like a real mullet now, doesn't it? It just about looks like a real mullet these days. Y'all asked for it. I think it looks dumb. I hate it. I'll be honest with you. I'm really growing this hair. This is how much I love y'all. I'm growing this mullet just for y'all because I absolutely hate having this haircut. Well, he said you look like you was born in Arkansas now. Well, that's good because I'm about to call a guy from Arkansas. Without further ado, let's dial up Mr. Stetson Blaylock. And y'all let me know if y'all can hear him okay.
Hello.
Mr. Stetson Blaylock, joining us live on the Your Lake Fort Guide YouTube channel. Man, thank you so much for taking time out of a glorious Sunday evening.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, man.
And we are not going to talk any kind of football because, if I'm not mistaken, you're from Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody wants to talk, nobody from Texas wants to talk football with anybody from Arkansas right now.
Well, I'll tell you, we got it back the last few weekends. I think we're falling apart, but
yeah,
it's football for me it's something to do with friends and buddies and cook out or whatever. But I don't get too caught up in all that, man.
I hear you.
You can bury yourself watching that and getting too high and too low.
Right. Absolutely. No, yeah, it's good. It's good barbecue talk. You're right. Absolutely. We've got more important things to do, like figure out how to catch some fish, right?
That's right. Yep. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's all. That's a lot of us. That's all we think about. It's one of those things that even in our downtime, it's a focus that we strive to get better at and learn more and more.
Well, speaking of that, that's something that I've had people ask me in the past, kind of what's the difference between guys like yourself, guys that have made it to the top of the hill, have fished on the highest level of competition. I mean, you've made it to the NFL or Major League Baseball of bass fishing on the Bass Bass Release Series. What's the difference between a guy like that and these guys are just good locally? And the only thing I've ever really been able to surmise is, man, like you guys, y'all are just all in. I mean, all in, and a lot of y'all are all in all the time. It doesn't matter off season, in season. You're just obsessed with figuring out how to catch them better, and it just never stops in your mind. Whereas other guys might be talented and they work hard at it, but they take breaks. And a lot of you guys don't take many breaks from what I've come to know of y'all that I've gotten to know.
Well, I kind of fit the not the. I fit the break taker. Honestly, to me, it's one of those things for me that, I'm been married for 12 years, got 2 kids, a 9-year-old boy that's playing travel baseball, tournament baseball. So for me, it's not necessarily that I don't want to go every other day, but I have other obligations that take me other directions. Now, saying that, it helps keep my focus up when I don't go all the time in the off season.
Okay.
To me, this time of year is, as well as a lot of people know, it's the time of the year where you have to get your sponsor stuff lined out for the years to come. And fortunately, I have really good sponsors, and they take good care of me, and I'm able to not stress about that as much. But there are certain years that things, let's just put it this way, things shake out, things shake up. We have deals come, we have deals go, we have different levels of obligations to these companies, and it's an interesting time of the year to keep everybody on their toes as well as they keep you on yours, trying to get everything figured out and moving into the new year. And to me, that's one reason that I try not to fish as much, is because I'm trying to really focus on when that calendar turns over to January 1, that I am ready to go for the 2022 season. And it never happens where we're all ready to go. I mean, you're always doing something down to the last minute. That's just the way it is. And with the way the world is now, it takes even longer. So it's just part of the process. But for me, that downtime, focusing on other things, actually lets me clear my mind and just kind of backing up, my year ended on a crazy note. I mean, I kind of struggled this year as far as consistently being where I needed to be in the classic hunt. I was always in there, but it was a struggle all year long. I had a few good tournaments, a few solid finishes, but coming down to the last day that I fished to make the classic, knowing that I had to finish, I think it was 30th or higher, and in that last tournament on the St. Lawrence River, and lo and behold, I finished 30th. So I literally made it in. Of course, they took more guys down after that, but I literally made it in as the last guy when that tournament was over. And, that puts a lot of stress on a guy. I mean, everybody knows that Bassmaster Classic, that's where it's at. That's what you want to be at that tournament. I've been fortunate enough to fish 2 of them now, and had a great finish in one and had a terrible finish in the other. And it is definitely the place to be. And I'm so excited to get another shot at it. And, just me being able to finish the year off like that, and having a long off season, because we finished our season in July. I mean, it gave me time to enjoy a little bit of summer with my kids, my family, play baseball. We finished the season out, and just being able to do those things. And I can tell you, though, a lot of years, like last year, we fished till November. I had some of my best tournaments in the fall. It's something that I enjoy doing, but I can tell you already, I'm ready to go. I mean, I'm feeling that itch again. I'm feeling that whatever it is that we have, it's there. And, it just, I think things that separate, guys that are on the top level is just being able to handle all of it mentally. I know a lot of great fishermen that just never did figure out how to handle the mental side of it when it comes to the stress of tournament prep, sponsor, obligations and things like that. And it's a lot of work, but for me, it's all I know, and I'm excited for another season.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And that's kind of, I wanted to ask you. You kind of took off with it, but I mean, it's when you get done with tournament season. Last year, you guys really didn't have an off season like you spoke of, because it went till November. Turn around, by the time you get to January, you're pre-fishing for Florida tournaments and all that, and so you really guys didn't have an off season. But normally you'll end in anywhere from July to September is when you guys will end your season typically, and so you've got a few months. And a lot of guys go deer hunting, but that forced time off that you speak of, even as a guy who just guides year round, I actually do something similar. Every August, I shut down. I don't run a guide trip, and I don't film a YouTube video now in August, and I hang out with my kids before they go back to school, and we go swimming at the lake and take them fishing a little bit here or there, let them drive the boat more than anything else in the summer, And I force myself to step away from that daily, I got to figure out how to put these people on fish, or I got to catch them on camera grind, because even though I'm not fishing for the stakes that you guys are, you've got it enough, When that's how you're making your living, you feel the pressure every day. It's not quite as great as fishing for $100,000, but there's still a pressure that comes with that. And fishing for a living under pressure is just a completely different animal. When it's how you feed your family, it's a completely different mental animal than any other type of fishing.
It is, and I look at it, not necessarily just fishing, but it's a totally different animal than any other job.
Yes.
And I know things are shaky in our world right now, but a lot of people get up every day knowing that their job's going to be there waiting on them. And for a guy like me, and even a guy like you, we make a living off of a pastime. And no matter how you look at it, Elite Series, YouTube, guiding, fishing, AAA, you're putting a lot of time and effort and energy into fishing, and that's something that people do for fun. So you're never guaranteed a job. And just to take a step back and realize how fortunate we are in this country to still be able to make a living fishing in so many different forms of that is just crazy to me. And I enjoy it. I mean, I know it's a lot of hard work, and people say, man, I don't know how you do that 6-7 days in a row. But at the same time, I truly understand, the platform that we've been put on, and I want to make the best of the opportunities that I get. And it's just really fun to be able to hustle hard for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 months out of the year, and then have a couple months where I get to spend that quality time and do other things. I just literally this morning at 2:30 in the morning got back from a deer hunt in South Dakota.
There you go.
One that I get to go on about every other year, and was fortunate enough to kill my biggest buck out there with a bow this year. So that's been a goal of mine for three trips now, to get out there and kill one, and finally was able to do it. So, that's been something that's, it's not stressful, but it's been on my mind. I want to get out there and kill a deer. I've been going every year for 3 years and haven't been able to do it. And, was able to finally get that done, and now the focus is starting to slowly shift to, got to tie up some loose ends with sponsor stuff. Keep an eye out for me. I've got some things coming. There's some good things happening for me, and it's a good time to be in the sport. I know things seem to be a little shaky, but stay humble, stay hungry, and good things are happening. So I'm just excited for another season to be rolling around.
Yeah, it's what you spoke on there, how fortunate we are to get to do what we do. And there's a lot of people across this country that do different things for a living in different ways. And just, yes, we get to do a hobby and feed our families doing a hobby. And that's an amazing opportunity that we have. And then there's countless other people that have opportunities. Bottom line is we all get the chance. We all have the opportunity to make our own way in this country.
Absolutely.
And I don't know where all you've traveled in the world. I've been fortunate enough to see some good parts of the world and see some real bad parts of the world. And I can tell you, it ain't just everywhere that people get to choose what they do for a living and have the opportunity to make their own life. And no matter what we think of Biden or Brandon or anybody else out there right now, politic-wise, government-wise in this country, no matter how bad you think it might be, this is the freest, greatest nation that's ever existed, and we all have the opportunity to do what we want with our lives as long as we're not hurting others or their property. And that is the most beautiful thing, and it's what makes this country worth fighting for, and making those political arguments and all the strife that we go through to keep it the way it is. It's all worth it because of that. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I want to rewind with you real quick, man, because this is probably my favorite. Lee, this year what Lee did on Lake Fork was so special, with him being the hometown guy and everything, and the epic last day bag. It made a run. It might be my favorite professional tournament viewing that I've ever done. And I was on the water that day, so that was really cool.
Yep.
But something happened back in 2014 that not just – there's been so many new people come to fishing through the advent of fishing on social media and all that here the last 5 years. Everybody don't know about what went down in 2014, and something extremely special happened on Lake Fork in May of 2014, and you had a very good front row seat. And what happened was we had a 3-day tournament, not a 4-day like a Bassmaster Elite Series or an FLW or even a Bass Pro Tour. I don't know how many days they fish now, 6 days or whatever they got going on. It's all different, but those are still 4 days. Each angler fishes 4 days if he goes to the end. This was a 3-day event, Toyota Texas Bass Classic. You had, was it like the best 15 or 20 from FLW, the best 15 or 20 from Bass, and then some open invites? How'd that work?
I think, and I mean, I may be wrong, but I think I remember it being 45 guys. It was the top 15 from FLW, the top 15 from Bassmaster Elite, and the top 15 from the PAA.
From the PAA, that's right. I forgot about that.
At that time.
Yeah.
Yep. And so I actually qualified. A lot of people don't know this or don't realize this, but that particular season, I was still fishing FLW. So I qualified through FLW to fish that tournament. And, it was I guess you could say, less than par practice for me. I'll and I was a lot younger then. I mean, we're almost 10 years past that tournament now. So, but
we're 7.5 years beyond. It's hard to believe that was 7.5 years ago, but it was.
Absolutely. But what had happened, I think, that year was we fished that tournament in May, and for me, I was kind of trying a lot of different things, and nothing seemed to be working. And I actually fished the first day of that event for probably 3 to 4 hours. I was fishing shallow, running the bank, doing the normal thing, trying to catch a few fish up shallow, and just happened to pull out deep to a spot I had a couple bites on, and it wasn't really a deep spot, but it was just kind of offshore. And I fished around, caught a couple 2-pounders, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to graph across that before I leave. And I happened to graph across that particular spot and saw a few fish there, and literally turned, didn't even turn the boat. I killed the motor, jumped up there, threw the trolling motor down, turned around and fired out there, and literally did not realize that I'd found one of the best, schools of bass that I've ever found in my life. I mean, I think to kind of fast forward, I think I ended up weighing in 36 something the first day, 35 something the second day, and 32, I think, the last day.
Mm-hmm.
So, well over 100 pounds in 3 days, and the majority of them came off that one spot. And, it's amazing that Fort continues to make such memorable tournaments, and it still does. I mean,
yes.
It doesn't matter how many times we go down there.
Every time.
There's always something crazy that happens. I mean, even last fall.
Yep.
It was a very, very different, tough Lake Fork, but it still did special things. And I mean, I remember very plainly catching a 7.5 pounder in 6 feet of water, and then later that day I caught a 7.5 pounder in 20 feet of water.
It's a unique
place.
place.
Just a lot of fun. But no, that 14 tournament was one of the most special tournaments to me, just because there's not many times that you find a place that you can catch, and people don't know this either. So this is the really cool part about that story. So that first day, I pull out there and I'm catching some fish, and I've thrown a deep crankbait and load up, reel it up, and I had a 5. I remembered this forever, and I forgot the exact weights, but I had like a 5.12 and a 6.4 on at the same time. Landed them both. We could use nets in that because they had their own rules at that time.
Right.
And I caught both of those, one on the front hook, one on the back hook. The very next cast, I caught an 11 pounder.
Oh my God.
Now, so back then, that particular year, they did not give a Tundra truck away for the winner of Big Bass. It was a set of wheels and tires, one of the sponsors. But here's the crazy thing about that. So I catch this 11 pounder. I weigh it. I'm in the heat of the moment. I don't take a picture of it. Right. I don't put it in my live well. I literally drop it over the side, not even thinking. Like, I wasn't even thinking that I just caught the biggest bass of the tournament. And I released that fish, and as soon as I let it go, I looked at my marshal and I said, "What did I just do?" And he said, "I'm not really sure. I'm not sure why you did that."
So let me ask you a question. One of the marshals you had on one of your days was actually, I believe, was a buddy of mine. His name's Kevin Sharp. He was working at Lake Fork Tackle at the time. Do you remember that at all? Big guy.
I do. Yep. I do.
He sent me a picture of your score sheet and like the times you were catching it. Dude, like it showed every time you catch a fish, it had a time by it.
Right.
It was insane, bro. Like you caught like 30-something fish by like 9 o'clock. It was nuts.
Yeah, it was the craziest thing ever. I mean, I've never seen anything, where you could consistently make the exact cast, and as soon as your bait got there, it was fixing to get freight train.
To put this in perspective, so that the people listening to this really understand what happened in that tournament, and I don't know that people really realize this, because the all-time record for a 4-day top-level, professional-level bass fishing tournament is 130 pounds at Lake Falcon in 2008. What people don't understand is Keith Combs won that event that you finished second in. You had 102, 103, whatever, something like that, in 3 days. Keith Combs had 110 pounds in 3 days. Folks, that is the best 3 days of bass fishing that the top level's ever experienced anywhere in the history of the sport. If you break down that average, that's far ahead of the pace of 130 pounds for 4 days.
And it would have probably been far greater than that. And everything is you can always think about how good it could have been, but. And I did wear that school out. By day 3 of that tournament, I had to move around. But when I moved around, I ended up catching 30-something pounds moving around.
Right.
I mean, that particular week,
it went down.
It went down, and it happened, and it didn't matter where you pulled up. A 6 to 7 pounder was going to eat your stuff.
I mean, I think it was Russ Lane. I think it was. He sat on that one road bed out there at the mouth of Glade on that little S curve in the road bed and caught 99 pounds in 3 days on one tiny little section of a road bed. It was insane.
Yep, and to me, I mean that stuff. And I've fished down there a lot, nowhere near as much as you or Livesey has, but I've fished there a lot, and I'm telling you, everybody knows Lake Fork's special, but it doesn't happen like that very often.
No.
And it just, to me, to be able to live that out, and look, I'm still mad about losing. I can't believe that I got beat with 3-day total of 102 or 3 pounds, whatever it was. I mean, I literally caught the biggest bass I've ever caught, and had, that's my 3. I think that's still my 3 biggest stringers to date.
Right.
And it just, I don't know that I'll ever beat. I mean, my smallest stringer that tournament was, I want to say 31 pounds or something, high 31. And it's just, it to me, that place at that time might never happen again. And, or it may be years and years before we see that happen like that.
Well, I mean, let's be real. You got, the top level bass fishing has been around for quite a long time now, and they fished a lot of really good fisheries at really good times of the year, and we've never seen it on that pace. I mean, that's the best pace of trophy bass fishing catching that we've ever seen at that level. So you're right. It probably won't happen for a long time. It may not ever happen again. That may be the best average daily catch you see. Huh?
What was his total this year? What was Lee's total?
Lee's total for 4 days was the same as Keith's was for 3. It was like 110, I think.
Yeah.
I think Patrick had just over 100. Brandon Cobb a couple years ago had 115.
Yep.
I mean, those are 4-day totals. This was 3 days. I mean, if Combs goes out and just scraps together a 30-pound bag on the last day, he beats the old record by 10 pounds. He's got 140 pounds.
And he had like 40 something the last day.
I know. So, he could have gotten to 150. He realistically could have hit 150. It was very possible because he had 2 bags over 40 out of 3 days.
And we all talked about it. Was talked about on stage that tournament. I'll never forget it. The guys were just saying, "Can we please just have this for one more day and just see what we can catch?" We all wanted to try to do something special, and it's still special. It's still one of those tournaments that gets talked about a lot, and it's funny. People still remember that I finished second, and they're like, "Man, I can't believe you lost. You didn't win that tournament."
I know.
Or I get asked a lot, "What's one of your favorite tournaments where you caught the most?" And I always tell that story, and they assume I won.
Right.
If they're not familiar, they're like, "Oh, well, you had to blow that one away," and I'm like, "Actually, I did not win."
Actually, I was second. It's crazy.
It's just wild to think about, and it's crazy. It's been 7 years since that tournament, and man, what good memories.
Yeah, absolutely. And one more little kind of insider lake information. You may get mad at me for disclosing this. I don't know whether you will or not, but it's been 7 years ago, so what the heck. But if I'm not mistaken, that real big school you did most of your damage on was pretty far up Little Caney, was it not?
Yeah, it was. It was actually, to be fair, it was probably a lot of the same fish that Lee caught this year.
That's where I was going, because what we now call Lee Island, because you could see that island, he was fishing that shallow point right there. You were right in that same area where he was around that island. Yeah. Yep.
It was very, very close to there, and I think there's areas in that lake that are special, and then there's areas in that lake that are just, if you find them, it's crazy, and that's just one of those areas. It doesn't always happen. I've looked there just about every time I've been there, and fork. It's just some days it's fork, and some weeks it's fork, and you just can't seem to find them. And man, and what's amazing is I have a couple places there that, and I know a lot of you guys fish them. A lot of other people fish those places, but they're super subtle spots, and they don't get on them very often. And I'm just waiting on one of these tournaments that we keep having. I thought maybe this fall tournament would happen. Last fall they'd be there, and I haven't been able to find them there like they can get. And it's amazing to me that as good as that place is, those fish are not always where you think they should be.
it can be, to me, the most frustrating fishery. If you're familiar with it, you know it well, like you do, like I do. You fish it a lot, like a lot of guys do, and you know it well, and you've seen it open up and show you what's swimming down there a couple times before.
Yep.
It becomes the most frustrating fishery to fish because so many of the days, more days than not, you go out there, and yeah, you'll catch some good fish if you keep your head down and all that if you're a good fisherman. But like it's tough, dude. Like it's just so tough to catch them. And then when you see it open up and they really bite, and you know what's in there, it becomes mind-boggling how difficult it can be to catch them on for whatever reason.
Yeah, and I don't know that there's a good explanation for it. I mean, obviously the first thing you want to say is it's the pressure.
Yeah.
But it's, I think fork is just one of those animals that when it's happening, it doesn't matter how many boats are out there. Everybody's going to catch them, and they're going to be biting. And when it's tough and it's hard to catch them, I mean, I've been down there and fished days where I caught 1, 2 keepers, no keepers, and come in. I'm just like,
yep.
What in the world is wrong with this place? And then you go back out there the next trip, and it's like the old times. It's amazing. It's a really cool fishery. I'm glad we keep coming back there, though. It's one of those places that, to me, the first few years I felt like I kind of had an edge, but now we're going and going and going, and it's whoever can find the pattern or the biggest school of fish is who's going to win. And I've had good tournaments just about every time, but I just haven't been able to get that key thing going to where I could be in contention to win since that 14 tournament.
Yeah, and I always look to you every time that you come because, dude, I've seen that booyah boat on Lake Fork over the years. I mean, I've seen it out there a bunch. You know what I mean? Like when other guys aren't around, you come down there. You used to come down there and guide some. And I've seen your boat around the lake a lot, and I know you, and I know the lake suits you. I know you've got experience on it, and so same thing. Every time you come there, I'm thinking, okay, well, Stetson's going to be there, but it is Lake Fork, and it can go any way. And I mean, half the time on Lake Fork, it's the guy doing something off the wall, like Patrick last year, being the guy that was the first one kind of looking at him on live scope in a big way on Fork, and he blew everybody away because he had something a little different figured out. And you know that too. A lot of times on Fork, it's a guy that's doing something they just ain't really seen before, or looking at an area or a pattern differently than other guys have looked at it before. He's going to execute, and that's the beauty of Lake Fork is when you get something figured out and get them to bite, it rewards you bigger than any other place does. But, man, if you don't get them figured out, it'll punish you. I mean, it's a really good – I think it's great for you guys to come there because it's such a good test. I mean, you got to do everything right.
Yep, it is. And you see a lot of the same guys doing well there year after year. But if you really look at the top 10 each time, there's always a few guys in there that they've been there, but this time they figured a little something out and make a good run and have good tournaments. And we all circle certain tournaments and are like, man, that's the one I want to win. And, the first couple of years we went to Fork, I had it circled as, man, I got to win that tournament. And now it's just, now that it's kind of part of our regular season schedule, I don't approach it any differently than I do any other elite tournament. That is practice for the week that we're there and figure out what's going on that week and get out of there with a good, solid finish and make those points and keep on going down the road. And if it's your turn, you're going to find something that's special and be right there when it's all said and done. And if not, you want to do as good as you can and move on to the next one.
Yes, sir. Let's we've done the rewind. Let's do the fast forward. Let's discuss next year's Lake Fork tournament. Here's what I want to discuss with you on that. We came here last year in April. We came here earlier this year in April, late April. Then last year, of course, we had to move everything to the fall, so y'all came in November. In years past, the Bassmaster Elite Series has been here in June, I believe, early June, when Brandon Cobb won it. And then the TTBC, the year after y'all did so good, came here in early May. When you did so good in 2014, that was right around Memorial Day, right around the 20th of May. Next year's Lake Fork Elite Series tournament, folks, we may have got Stetson on the phone to discuss this for a certain reason. I'm just saying. But next year, the dates for the tournament are May 19th to the 22nd. That is the exact time of year that y'all were here in 2014. What do we think? What is Stetson Blaylock thinking about that?
Well, again, I kind of just spoke on my thoughts on it it's and this is kind of off subject here a little bit, but with this tournament becoming an Elite Series tournament and not the Toyota
not the
Texas
TTBC,
Fest,
right?
yes, whatever you want to call it, with it not being that, and it's more it's points. I mean, it's part of our season now, and we have to survive it. I mean, a lot of guys might look at it the same as we used to, but I look at it differently now, and I don't look at it as go find the biggest school of fish and win the tournament. I have to look at it and practice in the way that I do for all the rest of them, where I got to have a plan where I can go catch a good bag of fish each day and have a solid, top 40 finish. Now, being is that we've hit it all over different times, like you just mentioned, and this year is the closest that we've been to that magical year. You better believe I'm looking forward to it. And I think one thing that kind of gives me hope, not necessarily that it could happen again, but I'll tell you, I did not catch them in practice that week. The fish, I didn't graph them. I didn't see them. I caught a few shallow. I caught a few deep, but it really wasn't that good of a practice. And for that to all come together the week of the tournament, it's kind of exciting to know we're hitting it at a little bit different time, and that if things line up and the weather stays, whatever it is that we need, and things progress like they're supposed to through the spring, that could be another one of those huge wake tournaments. And, I just, again, we're 7 years removed from that tournament, but we've been there. How many times have we been there now? 4 or 5 times since then, with all the other tournaments, the Texas Fest and everything included.
Yeah, you came for one more TTBC, and I believe y'all have done at least 3, if not 4, Elite Series. I think maybe it's either 3 or 4 Elite Series events y'all done there.
Exactly. So now you're looking at it as kind of like a St. Lawrence River, where we all know it's going to be good. We all know that you've got to catch 20 pounds. I mean, you've got to be in that 20-pound mark to be in the hunt. And that time of year, it could be closer to 30. And that's a really exciting thing to think about. But at the same time, I've been there so much now and fished so many big tournaments on that lake that I'm excited about it, but I'm nervous about it, because if you think something's happening and you make the wrong move, this very well, it can really hurt you. And like I said, now that it's a points tournament, I have to look at it totally different than I did in 14, because that's a one shot, one kill, go for all the glory week back then.
Yeah, there ain't no repercussions for striking out in that situation.
Yes.
Let me ask you about that. So you guys in your everyday tournament life, like, I don't know that people really understand this aspect of Elite Series top level tournament fishing. Yes, you want to win, but
every time
this is how you feed your family, and you got to go out and get checks. And you got to go out and get checks to make the money, but you got to go out and get checks to keep your status up there, to qualify for the Classic, to re-qualify for the Elites, to get those sponsor dollars rolling in, because where you rank AOY is going to affect all those things. And so there's a little bit of risk management, fish conservation, where you're just trying to, okay, I got these safe fish that you're trying to find these safe fish that you feel confident you can catch, versus going for the all-in deal, trying to catch the biggest fish I can. I've spoken to Hackney about this in the past, and he said that, basically it was the first time I heard somebody say, man, he goes, listen, I need to get checks. Every time I go out, I'm trying to get a check. And when I have my opportunities to win, I may go for it a little bit then. But I'm going out every week with the mindset of I got to go cut me a check. Is that how you are? What are you thinking?
Yeah, it is. I'm not saying that I'm a conservative fisherman, but I know what it takes to do well at this level. And I've had really good years and really slow years. I don't like calling them bad years, because if it's not a good year, it's a learning year. And to me, once you make it to the top level, though, what's scary about that is you can only have so many learning experiences before you're like, oh no, I'm not making money for 1, I'm not making Classics for 2, and I may not re-qualify for 3. So there's so much on your mind and this kind of goes back to what I was saying about people that work I say a normal 9-to-5 job. There's no normal 9-to-5 jobs, but if you go to work every day and you know your desk is going to be there and you're going to pull up your chair and get to work, your mindset isn't worried about, if I don't click this mouse just right, I'm going to lose my job, basically.
Yeah.
And that's basically how we look at it every week. I mean, you look at it, and don't get me wrong, I'm not putting down people that's their job, because most of them work really hard at doing that. And whether they're computer programmers, whatever it is they do or they choose to do, you have to work hard at it. But what I'm saying is we're depending on a creature that we cannot see most of the time, and tricking him into biting something that's not real, that he's not supposed to eat, in order to make a living and feed our families. And that's very stressful on so many levels.
It's wild. There's no doubt about it, man. Let's look at the rest of the schedule real quick. I want to kind of I want to ask you a couple questions about it, get your thoughts on it. So we're going to start off on the Elite Series, as we usually do these days. We're going to go in early February 10 to 13 to the St. Johns River. Go back the next week to the Harris Chain. Okay, then we go, the Classic is March 4th through 6th at Lake Hartwell in South Carolina. Then we've got Santee Cooper, which is just a big bass factory, March 17 to 20. They should be starting to spawn up there by then. That should be a big bass hammer. April 7th to 10th on Chickamauga, another giant trophy bass fishery. And I believe the next one after that is going to be Lake Fork after Chickamauga. Then we've got Pickwick, June 2nd to 5th. St. Lawrence, July 14 to 17. Lake Oahe, August 18th to 21st, which is a different one. That's different than what we usually see. Then we go back to the upper Mississippi River in La Crosse, Wisconsin, August 26th to 29th. And that's going to be all for the Elite Series. What are your thoughts on the overall schedule? What are you looking forward to the most? What are you dreading the most? What's your thoughts?
Well, and this again, everybody's different. I honestly didn't even remember all those lakes. I looked at the schedule. Oh yeah, cool. We got our schedule. Yeah. And then I kind of forgot about it. It's exciting every year. I know we go to a lot of the same places that are really good fisheries, and that's great. I don't mind that at all. But having those new ones on there, or places we haven't fished in years past, or in a few years, it's fun to get those back. I'm really looking forward to Chick and Santee. I've only fished Santee a couple times. Those two tournaments should be really fun, and those are probably the two. Honestly, I know Fork's on the schedule at a great time, but it's probably my third pick on this year's list.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But I will say that for every Elite Series angler in 2022, the big old circle that you better have circled is that Florida trip. And I'm not talking about either or, I'm talking about both of them. And it's always something to get out of Florida with a couple good finishes. And a lot of years we only have one. But this year we're having back-to-back tournaments at fisheries that are very, very, very tough if the weather is not right. Mm-hmm. And you can really start your year off in a big hole if you don't come out of at least one of those two with a solid finish. And I guess I would say this about those two. Those are my least. That Florida trip's my least favorite, but at the same time, it needs to be one of the most important to you because you need to get started on the right track.
Is it your least favorite because of the difficulty of the fishery under certain weather circumstances, or is it your least favorite because of the potential consequences if it doesn't go your way?
Exactly. It's kind of a mixture of both. That those two are North Florida. If people don't realize, we're not going down to Okeechobee where we're all the way down south. I mean, those two tournaments are in early February. It can be very brutal cold there. I mean, it's not like it is, in Michigan where it's 30 degrees every day, but it can get down in the 30s at night and just totally kill that bite. And if it don't get back up in the 70s and 80s pretty quick, you can have a bad week there of fishing. And don't get me wrong, I've had good tournaments on St. John's with bad conditions, but Though that one and Harris Chain can really be tough when things weather-wise don't line up. And again, we all are faced with the same conditions. So you just have to adjust. You have to get out of there and do your job and make sure you come away with a couple good tournaments. But I guess to answer your question, they're my least favorite. One, Harris Chain, it has gotten me about every time I've been there, and it's just not my style of fishery. So I have to make sure that I leave Florida. Me myself, I need to make sure that I leave there with a couple good tournaments.
Okay, I got you. Man, so that's for people that don't know. Florida bass, and when you're down there, you're dealing with 100% pure Florida strain bass. It's Florida, right?
Sure.
Those Florida bass, when you have those weather changes that you're speaking of, to me, it's one of the factors that makes Florida a little bit difficult at times because we have such a high percentage of Florida strain influence thanks to Texas Parks and Wildlife stockings, which is great, makes fish bigger.
Sure.
But Florida bass are temperamental, like a lot more temperamental than northern strain. And you get that cold weather, I don't know if people that have never fished in Florida understand, it can be like fishing the Dead Sea at times after a cold front, even during the springtime.
Well, and I think it is, and you nailed it with that. But one thing people, if you go back and look at all the tournaments that we've had, and I've been fishing in Florida tournaments since I was 16. I mean, when I first started fishing FLW back in the day, I was fishing as an amateur, and we always started at Okeechobee. So I've been going there since I was 16 years old. And for me, I understand that you need to catch a limit, and you need to have a 7-pounder.
There you go.
That's Florida fishing. And if you can get you a good limit and have one big one, then you're ahead of the game. And that's the struggle down there, is if things aren't right and the fish aren't really feeding good or biting a lot, you literally might catch 4 12-inchers, but you need that 7-8-pounder to keep you where you need to be. And to me, that's what makes it such a challenge down there, is no matter how many times you go or how good you feel, how much you feel confident in those places, if things don't work out, it can leave you scratching your head more than anywhere I've been.
Gotcha. Yeah, Florida is like I said, for people that haven't experienced, it's a different world of bass fishing down there. There's no doubt about it. Speaking of different worlds, Lake Oahe, Dakota,
Yep.
South Dakota, North Dakota, I don't know where it is. It's in Dakota, one of them. What do you think about that? Because that's a place to me. When I see that on the schedule and I think about it, dude, I'm just clueless. Like, it seems like it's an ocean in the middle of a prairie. It's so big. I just wouldn't even know where to begin if I had to go try to start pre-fishing for a tournament up there. So what are your thoughts on Lake Oahe?
Well, so that lake is a pretty well-known lake.
Yeah.
It is in the middle of nowhere, and that lake is, I think it is the largest lake, if I'm not mistaken, like as far as distance. It runs it runs from Pierre, South Dakota, all the way up into North Dakota.
Wow.
And we've actually fished there a few years ago on the Elite Series, but we went out up here. So from what I understand, from where we're taking out of in Mobridge this year, you can't even get down there. So it's going to be like fishing a totally new lake. And for me, I think we're going probably in the best time because, like I said, I just went through Pierre on my way home yesterday, and it's going to be brutal cold up there. And I think the best time to go is in the summer. And I'm looking forward to it because I have fished there one other time, and I saw some great potential. I didn't have a good tournament, but a lot of it was because of the wind that we experienced, and it just kind of killed me. But the pattern that I was fishing, but it's a good place. It's full of smallmouth. It'll be good for the viewers and the fans to see something a little bit different, and maybe see a new pattern or two surface out there that maybe we don't always see. And it'll just be a good break in the schedule of places that we always go.
So that's one thing I want to ask you too, because I've heard people complain about Bassmaster Elite Series is starting to have same schedule every year, and Lake Oahe being in there, you guys going back. Now, you've been to the upper Mississippi River several times on the series, but not real recently, I don't think. So, I mean, it's not the same schedule every year. And yes, the Bass West Elite Series wants to go to a variety of fisheries. They want to go to some of the best fisheries. They want to go to a different style of fishery, smallmouth, largemouth, all that in between. But them adding Lake Oahe, that just proves to me that Bassmaster doesn't just give you the same schedule every year. Yeah, there's a lot of similarities to it. But I have heard people complain about, well, you know you're going to go to the St. John's, you know you're going to go to Harris Chain every February, then we're going to go to the Tennessee River Lakes, Chickamauga, Pick. We're going to go to Lake Fork now. That's becoming an every year deal, which I'm happy about because it's where I'm from. But people have kind of complained about how the schedule is the same thing every year. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I think in Bass's defense, there's only, again, COVID threw everybody for a loop.
Yes.
And I think a lot's changed since the COVID outbreak has happened. And I personally think they do everything they can to take us to great fisheries at the best times possible.
Yep.
And I don't think that we go to those same places as just, we couldn't find anything else, let's just go back there. I think there's strategic reasons why we keep going to those fisheries. And, we all know that this world revolves around money. And if those places are willing to have us there to support their town, then why would we complain about that? I mean, they're giving us a place to fish that we can come down there and support them. Bass in return supports us and gives us a place to fish. And most of the places we go are great fisheries at some of the best times of the year. And I just don't know why anybody, yes, there's times we get lakes on our schedule that we see and we're all like, ugh, that one's going to be tough. But it doesn't matter. If you get to fish for a living and you know it's going to be tough, you have to figure out how to catch 8 pounds if everybody else is catching 6. And that's what it boils down to. They all can't be slugfest catching 20, 25 pounds a tournament. And yes, we have a lot of those, but I think that the big picture here to remember is we're all working together to try to put on a show for the fans. And whatever Bass has to do to get us out there to 8, 9, a classic every year, they work their tail off to try to make sure that happens and put us on good fisheries at good times of the year. And I just think it's great to have new fisheries. And look, I've let them know that there's places that I want to go. Everybody has. There's places we want to go, and if they can make it happen, you better believe that you're going to start seeing some not brand new lakes, but lakes you haven't seen in years come back around to that schedule. And it's exciting. I mean, I'm excited about it. I think we're going in a positive direction, and fishing's good. It seems like the fishing industry as a whole is doing pretty good. And to me, that's a good thing to see when you depend on that to feed your family.
Absolutely, no doubt about it, man. That's one of the ironic things that you hear guys complaining about, like fishing in the fishing guide world. You hear guys complaining about like Lake Fork getting ranked number 1 this year. Like, oh God, it's going to get even more crowded. And I heard a lot of guys down in Rayburn and Toledo complain when their lake got ranked number 1. And I'm like, man, if you're making your living in the fishing industry on Toledo Bend or Rayburn or Fork, the best thing you can have happen is to have something like that where you're ranked number 1 in the most followed bass fishing magazine there is. It's kind of a give and take. The lakes do get more crowded, but it's good for business if you're in the business. It's the more people get into fishing, the more high school fishing is developed, the more social media has brought new fishermen in. I don't think anybody can deny that fishing has grown the last 5 years, and a big part of that has been how much exposure there is on social media to fishing and how much fun we have doing it. New kids, new adults see that, they get into the sport themselves, they try it. It gets the lakes more crowded, and I understand the old school mentality of, man, don't get out of my hole, but
sure,
if you're making your living doing it, it's worth that hassle or that negative because it grows the industry as a whole and it makes the pie bigger. And that's what we all ought to be doing. We're all out here competing, trying to do the best we can. But you know what's great? We're all eating from the same pie known as bass fishing. And instead of trying to get a bigger piece of somebody else's piece of pie, let's just make the pie bigger. You know what I mean?
Yep.
and that makes
Yep, absolutely.
everybody happy. And that's what's happening. And it's a good thing. It's a give take. I think you kind of alluded to, you kind of mentioned this a little bit. But one thing when people are talking about that schedule with Bassmaster, you said it. Having the cooperation from the community, and also for you guys putting on the big show you do, big production, big stage, all that. You got to have facilities, man. You got to have room. You got to have facilities, and everywhere doesn't offer that. So when you have
That's right.
places that do, that are very good bass fisheries, yeah, they're probably going to be on the schedule a lot of years. You know what I mean?
Sure, absolutely. Yep. And two, and it's not always this way, but that we have to have places to stay, we have to have places to eat, and it's not, like I said, they do the best they can to get us at good places at the best time that can accommodate 100 anglers, and everybody can have the best experience possible when we go to those places. But you kind of mentioned something about the sport's growing, and people are complaining about lakes getting crowded or whatever. What else would we want?
Right.
I want to go back to that a little bit. What more could an angler want that makes a living in this sport? And whether you have sponsors or you're a guide or whatever, if more people are fishing, they're going to call you for guide trips. If more people are fishing, they're going to be buying your company's baits. And that, to me, is a very bright spot in our future. And my boys and I, he's just now getting into fishing a lot, and to see that and to see all these kids that I see these kids in these high school and college tournaments. I'm thinking these guys are the real deal. Like, you can tell by watching them.
Oh, yeah.
They're not out there just goofing off, and it kind of makes you think, dang, I'm 34 now, and it just seems like yesterday I was 16, 17 getting started doing this, and I'm like, gosh, I can't take my foot off the gas because they're coming, and they're coming in by bunches, and you can see that already in the Elite Series with the college guys that's came in and done well, and there's several more that are on their way, and they'll be there pretty quick.
Yeah, they're getting so much more of an advanced start. They're so far ahead. Like, everybody that's a veteran of this industry, and I don't know that I'm necessarily a veteran of this industry yet. I've been doing it for about 5 years now. But everybody that's a little bit of a veteran of this industry, everybody that's, I don't know how old you are, Stetson, I'm 38. Everybody that's in my age bracket and up, these kids are a lot better than we were when we were teenagers, man. They're so much far ahead of us because of the experience they're getting to gain through those platforms, through those high school fishing tournaments, and through the knowledge that they can gather, the availability of information because of social media from guys like you, Wheeler, I mean, just anybody, Edwin Evers, everybody's doing their stuff. I mean, you can watch instructional videos from every angler. I know, like, when we were growing up, dude, it was like, I'm gonna watch Bill Dance, and I'm gonna watch Hank Parker, and I'm gonna watch Jimmy, and I'm gonna try to listen to everything they say so I can learn more about bass fishing, and then I'm gonna try and go apply it. Well, now these kids can do it anytime they want to with hundreds of different anglers that know what they're doing, and so they're gaining more knowledge. They got more experience. They're just light years ahead. Fishermen today are just light years ahead at a young age than they were back then.
Yep, and it's a good thing.
Absolutely.
It's really good. It's making me work harder, making me try harder, making me put more into it, and understanding that if you don't step on it and stay caught up, you're gonna get ran over, and that's just the nature of the game we call life. And
yes, sir.
It's a fun life to live and be able to do this, and I'm very, very blessed and fortunate to have done it for, gosh, I think this is my 12th year now to fish professionally. It's hard to believe that 12 years has gone by, but hopefully I've gotten a lot more ahead, and man, I'm really, really looking forward to the next few years and see how things progress, and hopefully the economy stays strong and we can continue to rock and roll.
Yes, sir, man. Well, Stetson, you took a long time with us tonight. I can't thank you enough, brother. You've always been a good one and a good friend to me and the little interactions that we've had, and I can't thank you enough for that. And like I said, I appreciate you taking the time tonight. And, I'll see you when you get to Lake Fork, and I may make it to a couple other events, but we'll say hello and I'll see you then. But, man, just thank you for everything you've done, for being a good example for our young anglers, and just being a good dude, and keep grinding on them. We'll be pulling for you, man.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me. And like I said, follow me on all my social media channels, Stetson Blaylock Fishing. and be watching. Got a lot of exciting things coming, and some new stuff, and bringing on some new partners and things for next year. So looking forward to it.
Where all can we find you, Stetson? I know you said Stetson Blaylock Fishing. I'm assuming that's on YouTube. And then where else can we find you?
Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I'm on all of them. So
okay.
Just keep watching. Things are good. Things are good. I'm looking forward to a good, strong year, and I'm getting hungry again for another win. It's been a couple years, so it's time to do it again.
Go get one, brother. We'll be pulling for you, man. Thank you so much. Y'all have a great night up there in Arkansas, bud.
Thanks. Absolutely. See you.
All right, bye. That was Stetson Blaylock. And in case you couldn't tell, that's one of the good ones. Like, that's one of the good guys. Like, you want somebody to pull for that's a good dude that you won't feel ashamed about any of his actions or he won't embarrass you. That's a good dude. He's a good family man. He's a hard worker, as you can tell by everything he talks about. Just got to work harder. You know, that's his principles. That's his values. He's a good dude. He's a talented angler, but he's one of the good ones to pull for. So y'all do what he said, man. Y'all go follow him. He's a great guy. I've gotten to know him personally a little bit. He's had some of the same guide customers that have been in his boat and my boat, so I've heard them speak about him, and you'll never hear a bad word about that guy. He's just a really, really good fella. So go follow Stetson Blaylock, man. Thank you guys for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed tonight's conversation. It was kind of a little bit more toned down, a little bit more serious conversation, a little bit more breakdown, but we like to do that sometimes because when it comes down to it, we're pretty serious about this bass fishing deal. We goof off a lot on this channel, but we love to try to figure out ways to catch more and bigger fish, and hopefully some of Stetson's conversation helped y'all do that tonight. It was also fun. It was fun to discuss and remember the 2014 tournament that was so epic. I don't know how many of you guys got to see that, but it was a special, special deal. I encourage you to look anything up on the 2014 TTBC on YouTube or any social media platforms. You can find information on it. Go back and look at some of those highlight clips from Stetson, Keith Combs, and Russ Lane. It was an incredible, incredible event. So as always, thank you guys for watching. Man, I couldn't do what I do. I wouldn't get to live this life, chit-chat with guys like Stetson, and get to go. I'm going fishing tomorrow. I got customers for the next 2 days, same guys both days in a row. And, man, it's an awesome life I live, and it's only because of you guys that watch and follow and like and share and all that good stuff, man. Thank y'all so very much. For those, I see some of y'all asking, where's Chris at? Chris couldn't make it this week. Chris, his best friend, got married this week, so congratulations to Houston Carroll. I'm a little bit scared for his new old lady because I know Houston pretty well too. But, yeah, his best friend got married this weekend, so he's out of town for that. Totally understandable there. But Chris will be back next week, I believe. Either way, we'll be here. We got a crazy video coming tomorrow. I still got to count it all up, but I think we might be going over 200 pounds in a single day on camera tomorrow night. Y'all be sure and watch for that, man. Thanks for watching as always. We'll see you next time right here on your Lake